Hello and welcome to the Buffalo Review TV. I'm Marcos Watkins.
And I'm Nhl. On today's show, we look at multiple changes coming to Western New York area, and we say farewell to 2018 seniors at Buffalo State.
We will also be taking a look into Project Flight and addressing the controversies dealing with racially insensitive names in sports. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Now, from the campus of SUNY Buffalo State, news and information for Buffalo and the surrounding communities. It's the Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media.
Next Saturday will be Buffalo State's 146th graduation ceremony. Buffalo Review reporter Amy Kavanaugh went out to talk to soon-to-be graduates.
Thank you, Cyan. The semester is coming to an end, and graduating seniors are preparing to take that epic walk across the stage and into the rest of their lives. For seniors that are not totally sure about that next step, the Career Center remains available for up to 2 years post-graduation to help with resumes, interview skills, and job searching. For seniors themselves, here's more on the story. It is graduation time here at Buffalo State. Students will be crossing the stage May 19th after 4-ish years of hard work.
I guess putting on the gown was like, I actually did this, it wasn't the best, that I probably could give, compared to high school or whatever the case may be, but I actually did this and it just felt really good. So that gave me a little bit more confidence and, a bit more excited, just all right, I've been around these same people for 4 years and it's tough. Now it's time for the real world.
For those not exactly sure what to do next, the director of the Career Development Center, Stephanie Zuckerman-Aviles, has some advice.
We actually have a phenomenal program, and we have employers and alumni who contact us looking for people, and we post those on our online system, which is called Orca. And that's available for every student, and once you graduate, you still have access to all of this.
Graduating senior Brandon Thomas reflects on how quickly 4 years can go by.
It's also one of those things where it just came right away, it's bam, you're graduating. I knew last semester, I knew the semester previous, but it's when you're in that semester, it's crunch time. It's apply to jobs, get your resume fit. It's happening moments. It's really weird, but it's really rewarding, really happy. So, yeah.
Soon-to-be graduate Ben Siegel has some advice for current students.
Talk to professors, try to get out there as much as you can, try different things. I found this school is really good for talking to actual professors and getting actual hands-on experience, way better than my last school, so that's certainly something I'd encourage.
For graduating seniors, it might be tough to find a job out there, but stay optimistic.
I think you have to stay hopeful, you have to believe in yourself, and when you lose that, find a human being that can pump you up and cheerlead you. And we do that for students. We cheerlead all the time. But it can get discouraging, and that's what I meant by being persistent and hanging in there.
Class of 2018, congratulations. For the Buffalo Review TV, this has been Amy Kavanaugh.
A lot of those commuting students are going to have a tough time with the new renovations beginning on the Buffalo Skyway. As of 11 a.m. on April 13th, the eastbound-inbound lanes of the Buffalo Skyway will be closed. The gap stretches between the Ohio Street exit and extends to Interstate 190. Between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. weekdays, the Skyway will be closed to all traffic. On Saturdays and Sundays, the Buffalo Skyway will remain open to outbound-westbound traffic only.
Spectrum will also be making a few changes. Happening every Tuesday throughout the month of May, they say to expect faster internet speeds, more on-demand features, and more HD channels are on the way. But at what cost? The company is undergoing a switch to an all-digital network, which will require everyone with their service to purchase a digital cable box. These boxes will cost $11.75 monthly to rent, and many Spectrum customers are not happy about the newest addition to their bill. Although the company feels this will greatly benefit their customers, Spectrum users hope these new changes are significant enough for the rise in price and potential loss of public access channels.
This year's proposed budget for the city of Buffalo includes increased taxes for home and business owners. The increased property taxes will be a 3.4% increase for homeowners and a 5.5% increase for businesses. The increase is expected to collect $5.7 million for the city of Buffalo. Residents should also expect to see their increases in other fees as as the garbage user fee. The spending plan looks to keep significant funding for youth and increase funding for Buffalo Public Schools.
Families with Federal Housing Administration loans, or FHA loans, are finding that cash is king when it comes to buying a home in the Buffalo area. With the rise in property value over the past few years and low inventory, the opportunities for FHA buyers are minimal. Naomi Lasko, realtor for Keller Williams Realty, speaks on the issue.
Basically, the problem is that FHA buyers and VA buyers are often getting outbid by cash because generally they don't have enough money down and they can't compete with that.
As Buffalo homes are generally older and in need of renovation, sellers are choosing cash buyers to avoid mandatory repairs, home inspections, and appraisals required from financial institutions backing FHA buyers.
Small Business Month inspires locals to celebrate with the mom and pop shops that have been helping provide for their community. The U.S. Small Business Association held National Small Business Week from April 29th to May 5th. In accordance with this week, Small Business Saturday will be held this November.
According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, children who have regular access to books typically earn grades 25 to 30% higher than their peers. The Buffalo Review TV's Brittany Rodriguez joins us now to tell us more about a Buffalo program designed to expose students to reading.
Thank you, Marcos. Project Flight is a non-for-profit organization committed to improving literacy rates in children through school and family initiatives. In collaborations with practitioners, community groups, and businesses, Project Flight works to achieve its goal. Public school districts in Buffalo are at a standstill of promoting literacy for children who have trouble being academically successful, and it's because they have limited access to a book. In order to make progress in overcoming this gap, Project Flight is dedicated to help unprivileged students.
Project Flight was established in 1993, and it was established because Buffalo was third in the nation in poverty, and we at Buffalo State believe in, a university without walls, and we're so into the community with regard to social issues. For us, the social issue of illiteracy is monumental. When you think of 90% of the world's population who are impoverished are those individuals who are women with children. We think that literacy is a tool to get people out of literacy. So our mission and vision is that every child will be able to have a book and be able to read it at grade level, that children will live in a literate environment and either at home or at school, and that literacy will be an entree out of poverty, especially here in Buffalo in the Western New York area.
Buffalo is ranked as one of the nation's poorest cities, and 54% of children lives in poverty.
We're experts in child development and literacy, and so we take the books, organize them according to age level, organize them according to subject matter, and then organize them according to donations to the various agencies.
Project Flight Book Bank is responsible for collecting and distributing a large quantity of books annually. This program supplies students from pre-K through high school with age and content appropriate reading material.
From the Buffalo Review, I'm Brittany Rodriguez.
The Buffalo State Art Conservation Department helped solve the mystery of a foot-long, cream-colored, mislabeled egg. The egg was labeled Model of an Elephant Bird Egg and was purchased in 1938 by the Buffalo Museum of Science. However, the current collection manager at the museum, Paige Langle, had an inkling that this was incorrect. She sent the egg to Buffalo State, where they use radiography to examine the inside. Members of the art conservation team determined the egg was no model and may have actually been fertilized. The elephant bird is currently extinct, but stood 10 feet tall and was native to the Madagascar in 1500s.
On April 28th, the Buffalo Sabres won the Nhl Draft Lottery, giving them the first overall pick in the 2018 draft. The Sabres have picked inside the top 10 since 2013, but this will be the first time in that time span where they pick first. The Sabres have not seen the playoffs since the 2011 season, and this year finished with the worst record in the NHL. Currently, many have pegged Rasmus Dahlin, a Swedish defenseman, as the likely Sabres pick. WKBW sports reporter Joe Buscaglia said Dahlin is a once-in-a-generation type of player.
Just talking with as many people as you do in this job and asking their opinion on this guy, and they say he's the real deal, and You just read all these different things about he's potentially generational as a defenseman. They surely need that because they were bad on the back end last year. So it was a strong day and a strong 3-day stretch for Buffalo sports overall.
The Nhl Draft will take place on June 22nd. And what better way to wrap up a Sabres game than ice cream? Ice Churn, the soft-serve ice cream shop and sister company of Lloyd Taco Truck, reopened last week. Introducing some exciting new menu changes, Churn began its journey last spring. With a fresh take on soft-serve ice cream, their homemade soft-serve is unique to the area. Introducing options such as vegan coconut ice cream, this spring, Churn looks to build on that creative as they introduce a new churro-inspired sundae. Churn is making ice cream the way they want, with creative combinations and pure ingredients. They look to change the way people view soft-serve.
This year's most anticipated movie did everything but disappoint. Marvel's Infinity War is the first summer film projected to reach $2 billion. Only 3 weeks after its release, the film has already brought in $1.6 billion. Starring Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Scarlett Johansson, the film is the culmination of over 10 years' worth of Marvel magic. The film was released overseas this past weekend, uniting all Marvel fans far and wide.
Speaking of bringing superheroes together, Buffalo's annual Superhero Walk will be held Friday, June 1st. Geared towards raising awareness and funds for children with disabilities, the 5K walk will take place at Delaware Park. Save the Day registration is available online for both teams and individuals. Coming up on our show, I'll be sitting down with Michael Martin, who is the Executive Director of the Native American Community Services of Erie County, and talking about racially insensitive names in sports.
You're watching the Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media. You can find out more about our show at our website, buffaloreview.wordpress.com, and we welcome your feedback. If you have a question, comment, or story idea, you can email us at thebuffaloreview@gmail.com.
The United Students Government, also known as USG, and the Caribbean Students Organization, also known as CSO at Buffalo State, host their annual concerts every year. This year, CSO presented Carabash on May 3rd, while USG will be having Springfest this Friday on May 11th, with performances by P&B Rock, Lou Got Cash, G Herbo, and 24 Hours. We have next year's president for CSO, Oshina Webb, and Dave Meinzer, who oversees USG's press services. Thank you guys for joining us. So, Sheena, I want to start with you. For the first time in history, CSO has had 4 artists such as Cranium, Linky First, Stax Life, and Zuras for Carabash this year. Can you tell me what that was like?
It was a very amazing experience, but it was very hectic because we had to get everything in order. But it was nice seeing all 4 artists coming together, performing, everybody in the crowd enjoying themselves. So it was really good.
Dancehall King and Queen was the same day as Carabash. Describe to me what it was like having 2 events in one rather than having dancehall on a separate day and Carabash on a separate day.
It was a lot of work to do, a lot of things to organize, make sure people had wristbands, make sure people was coming in when they're supposed to come in, no re-entry. So it was a lot to organize to make sure that people wasn't like fighting or like doing anything crazy.
So can you describe to me what Dancehall Queen was like before Carabash?
Dancehall King and Queen was like an event by itself without Carabash, where like 2 male or female Dancehall King and Queen represent CSO, represent their Caribbean country, where they dance to represent the Caribbean cultures. So yeah, basically.
Comparing last year to this year, which Carabash was better, and tell me exactly why?
Which Carabash was better? Idonia. The reason why I say that is because I am a big fan of Idonia. Like, I've been listening to his music for a long time, so like I feel like Idonia was really fun.
That's good. And congrats on your presidency for next school year for CSO. Do you have any plans on the amount of artists you may have this year, or do you have Carabash plans in general?
Not yet, but like I'm planning on having like 2 artists. So yeah, but like I haven't go into the details yet because I'm new.
Okay, we can stay tuned for next year for that. And how would you contrast to somebody that doesn't know Carabash and Springfest?
Well, Carabash is for Caribbean culture, bring up Caribbean artists, and like Springfest deals with like hip hop artists basically.
Dave, thank you for coming.
Certainly.
So from my understanding, in the year of 2006, it was the first year we actually named this big event that USG has, Springfest. What was it called before that, and what was the actual difference?
Well, it wasn't a standalone event the way it is now. It was more the last event in a program of events. The USG used to be able to have several different large concerts over the course of a year, sometimes as many as half a dozen in the gym or at least in the social hall. And the whole climate for shows like that has changed. They're a lot more expensive. The expense outstripped the budget that USG has. And just putting them on became a more difficult thing. And they wound up about 10, 12 years ago sort of starting to put all their eggs in one basket and just plan for one big show at the end of the year. And when they did that, they called it Springfest.
Now, would you consider Springfest Buffalo State's most highly anticipated event?
It seems like it to me. I'm not a student, so I get it all viscerally, but yeah, it does seem like that, yes.
And if possible, how many students can be a part of the planning process before the artists do get released?
Well, in the very beginning, any student can, because they start out with a survey in the fall asking, through the Bengal Connect website, they ask who people are interested in seeing. And then it sort of boils down to a committee that USG puts together. It's usually anywhere from 5 or 6 to a dozen people. And the way to get involved in that is just to get involved in student government. The people who make the decisions are the people who have gotten involved as an officer or a senator, and they get put on the committee, and then they start looking at the survey results and looking at who's available and putting together a bill for the show.
Now, the shirts for Springfest, all the students are wondering, how can they get a shirt? Is there any advice you can give to the big student body for this huge event on how they could get a Springfest shirt?
At this point, it's right place, right time. You just have to, they were just giving them out on campus this afternoon, and if you were in the right place at the right time, you got one. Just keep your eyes open.
Right. Now, do you believe this year's Springfest is going to be real hectic?
I don't know. It's it sort of boiled down to the wire because they couldn't promote it as early as they wanted to. Right. And it's a little bit different every year. I'm hoping that we don't have the problems with people with a really slow entry line that we've had in the past, but we'll see tomorrow night.
Now, my last question is for the both of you guys. What do you guys think about USG and CSO collabing to have a Carabash and Springfest in one event?
Go ahead.
Oh, that would be amazing. Like, that would be the most anticipated event for the year. A lot of students will look forward to that. Yeah, I would like to see that happen.
What about you, Dave?
I think it would be great. Again, I'm not a student, so it's not my decision to make. But I think if I know that some Caribbean artists do make the surveys, and the names are there, and they look into them. And if you start out, I think the big thing with Springfest is that and with Carabash, I think, is that there's a long time that it takes to plan it and get it together. And the sooner you start talking about something like that, the more likely it is to happen.
Now, Dave, if you can, do you know of any performers that has been here that caught your memory, or a specific Springfest year that caught your memory?
With Springfest, not so much, because I'm a lot older than you guys, and the ones that I remember the best are from back in the 70s and 80s. Bands like Talking Heads and Elvis Costello and the Ramones and things like that, and bands like the Pretenders and Sinead O'Connor, who did their first shows in North America at Buffalo State. So that's more my kind of music and what I remember well. In the recent Springfests, actually, interestingly, not knowing any of the artists beforehand, pretty much, the one that sticks out is the one who was not advertised, and that's Waka Flocka, who filled in for, I think, Pusha T or somebody like that, somebody who had dental emergency or something and couldn't make it, and so Waka Flocka stepped in, and he was great. He put on a great show. I thought he was, I think the audience really really got into them.
Thanks, guys, for coming, and we appreciate you guys very much. Stay tuned for more on the Buffalo Review TV.
You're watching the Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media. You can find out more about our show at our website, buffaloreview.wordpress.com, and we welcome your feedback. If you have a question, comment, or story idea, you can email us at thebuffaloreview@gmail.com.
Welcome back to the Buffalo Review TV. Native American culture is still prevalent in the modern United States, but many argue that it has also been abused and disrespected throughout time. From names of mascots of sports teams to debates over treatment of land, these issues have a long history and yet no definite solution. Joining us to talk about these issues today is Michael Martin, the Executive Director of the Native American Community Services of Erie and Niagara Counties. Mr. Martin, thank you for coming on the show and joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure.
So just to give us some insight and start right off the bat, I was wondering if you could tell us about your organization and what is it that you guys do?
Sure. Well, Native American Community Services, we're the urban Native center for this region. We have offices in Buffalo, Niagara Falls, and Lockport, and we do a whole holistic array of services, everything from family services, including foster care and family preservation programming, to health and wellness programming, basically a lot of youth-focused programming around substance and alcohol abuse prevention, as well as adolescent pregnancy prevention and some general physical health programming. Economic self-sufficiency, which is an array of all the way from academic achievement to eventually entrepreneurship and home buying, building assets in the community, a lot of it on workforce development and job opportunities. And our fourth component of what we do is called the community cultural services. Anything that doesn't fit in the other three, we have a place for it, but it's anything we do with our Native American language programming, our elders programming. We have a current program called Seasons that takes cultural concepts, but also allows for some financial literacy and management training as well. And then we have two special initiatives beyond that are beyond our normal territories, which is all our relations, is a free Native American cultural competency training, as well as Native American traditional teachings for the community and some voluntary case management. And then we have a statewide collaborative called the Gathering of Good Minds, where we reconvene all the Native communities across New York State, both the urban communities as well as the nation communities, to talk about holistic pathways of health and well-being for our people.
Quite the big organization.
It keeps us busy.
You know, you and me don't have to know. We already know the history books as far as Native Americans and this entire country. But currently today, they only make up about 2% of the population. In your opinion, how does Native American culture impact America today?
Well, I mean, quite significantly, really, especially for those that are in the New York State area. Is the traditional homelands of our Haudenosaunee people, or people of the Longhouse, or the Iroquois, people may know them, 6 nations of the Senecas, Cayugas, Onondagas, Oneidas, Mohawks, and Tuscaroras. And it's our Confederacy's Great Law of Peace, which actually is the U.S. Constitution is based on. And we don't get that credit all the time, but there are several publications and research that show that borrowing of those concepts that formed the U.S. version of democracy. And Benjamin Franklin and other founding fathers were documented sitting in our councils, learning some of those processes and taking them back at that time Philadelphia for their discussions. They kind of forgot that in our society, we're a matrilineal society, where women kind of have a lot of the power and influence. That kind of didn't make it back into those discussions into Philadelphia. Unfortunately, at the same time, like the founding fathers of the country were borrowing those concepts to form their government, we were also being kind of categorized as savages and uncivilized and heathens, and that we needed to be kind of tamed, if you will. So natives really across the country have gone through several generations of trauma in different forms about trying to erase who they are and kind of to civilize them as American citizens. But we have a strong sense of sovereignty here, and a lot of international relations that help to place us in a different light with many nations across the world.
And I'm glad you mentioned the part about the taming and the savages, because of course one of the big topics that I mentioned off the top is the mascot controversy issue of so many teams, especially particularly when it comes to professional sports, using those images and terms from Native and American culture. I was wondering if you could tell me, do you see that as a problem, and why?
Well, any derogatory mascot or any sort of demeaning of people as humans is obviously concerning no matter who it is. for us as Native people, the funny thing with historical trauma is it comes out in different forms or fashions. And historical trauma is things that may have happened in the past that still affect us today through intergenerational links. And so when the imagery around the mascots, I think, is probably more troubling in terms of how people characterize our Native people or take what can be considered more sacred or spiritual kind of aspects of our culture and manipulate them for their gain in a sporting thing and misappropriate it. What's really bothered me and some of the mascots debates is when the community raised those concerns and sort of those in power said, well, it doesn't really matter what you think, or we don't care if we're kind of hurting you. We like it, so that's good enough kind of thing, and kind of disregarded us. And that's the funny thing with history. History is his story, and it always depends on the he who's telling the story. And by and large, the world history has not been told from an indigenous person's perspective. And when you start to look at things from a more holistic perspective of how things impact upon people, I think you get different outcomes than you otherwise would in terms of what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. But those intergenerational hurts really manifest themselves to affect the health and well-being of our people, not only from self-images that we have and how other people view us in terms of opportunities, but I think one of the things that I think people often forget too is when the United States and Osama chased down Osama bin Laden all those years and finally caught him in Pakistan and killed him, and the rest of the country was celebrating this great win for the country of hunting down his terrorists, his innocent, the slaughter of thousands, and this great day of celebration, people waving U.S. flags in front of the White House. For us in the Native community, we had a different response to it because a lot of people don't realize the code name that they used for Osama bin Laden was Geronimo. And Geronimo was a great Native leader who fought for the health and safety of his people, his women, his children. And for him to be used as the code name for this person they hunted down and vilified and killed, so as everyone else was celebrating, those of us in the Native community are kind of sinking back and wondering, is this still how the U.S. government feels or thinks about Native people? Because that had to be passed at the highest level of the military, the highest levels of government, for nobody to question it whether it was appropriate or not. Just kind of demeans us again, but it does raise real questions. Is that how they think of us as Native people?
Now, real quick, I want to know, because one of the poster child teams for the issue has been the Washington Redskins, the NFL team in D.C. Okay. Daniel Snyder, who's the owner, has said he will not change the name. Right. Why do you think owners like him are so resistant to change their names?
Probably part of it being stubborn, and the other part of it being economics. I think he feels there's going to be an economic loss if he actually changes the name. I would see it, being an economics undergrad here at Buff State in my days, I would see it as an economic opportunity to not only win over a portion of the fan base that doesn't support that name, but also when they change the name and the logo and everything else, they're going to sell more jerseys and sweaters and everything else that goes with it. So it comes down to sort of defiance about what's, again, appropriate, what's not. But it's that dismissive of us as Native people that's kind of hurtful in its own way.
And I'm glad that you mentioned appropriate, because the one last question I want to get in there at the end is, of course, there are other named teams out there. There's, the Atlanta Braves, the Cleveland Indians, Chicago Blackhawks. There's so many different names. Right. Are there any names that the majority of Native Americans consider appropriate? Are they okay with this?
It's hard when you start talking about majority, because there are differences of opinion just like there are in other communities. I think it really, again, it comes down to how those images and those fan bases, are they really being respectful of Native people in terms of how they portray us, or are they really just like disregarding who we are and using an antiquated image of us as those savages and, those sort of vaulted warriors that, just want to hunt and kill? If that's the different images than what we would want to be portrayed. So it comes down to, I guess, how it's being portrayed and how we're being portrayed as Native people today, and if there's a respectful dialogue between the communities that they're supposedly honoring by choosing that mascot versus total disregard for us as Native people and what we care or any concerns we have. So it's I think you'll find different people with difference of opinion on everything, but I think for the majority, we'd rather not be seen as mascots as in history, but here today.
As African Americans, and I'm sure white people wouldn't want the same as well. Thank you, Mr. Martin, and we do wish your organization continuing the best of luck in the future. Thank you for watching Buffalo Review TV.
Buffalo Review TV, produced by Stripes Media. You can find out more about our show at our website, buffaloreview.wordpress.com, and we welcome your feedback. If you have a question, comment, or story idea, you can email us at thebuffaloreview@gmail.com.